broadcasting from the Unshackled Studios in Melbourne. This is WIlmsFront, brought to you by theunshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wills.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another WIlmsFront featured interview show. It is Thursday the 30th of June 2022, the last day of the financial year, and also thankfully the last day of Alphabet Pride Month. So the avalanche of sexualized degeneracy it now promotes will be slightly less prominent for the next 11 months. It also means that the monkeypox curve in Europe and North America could begin to flatten. Tonight we are on the WIlmsFront YouTube, DLive and Odyssey channels. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Victoria, where we are in the depths of winter and COVID is rampant today. There were 9,926 new cases. There are currently 46,113 active cases statewide. There are 465 Victorians in hospital frith COVID. I use that term frith because not quite from COVID, but definitely with. 21 in ICU and 4 on a ventilator. 17 Victorians were recorded as dying frith COVID today, but hardly anyone cares anymore apart from the hardcore COVID cultists about these daily stats anymore. There are hardly any restrictions in the state compared to what we have been subjected to over the past 2 years. Masks are sparse apart from the dedicated mask perverts who have upgraded to not just N95s but full gas masks now. But all Victorians, remember over the past 2 years, Dan Andrews and his Chief Health Officer, Brett Sutton, repeatedly locked down the state over a few mystery cases. It was always 7-day short, sharp lockdown, and it always lasted much, much longer. And they, of course, carried all the insane rules like curfews, outdoor masks, 5-kilometre radius, and only leaving the home for permitted reasons. And these lockdowns were brutally enforced by Dan's goons at Victoria Police. 2021, we saw their brutality escalate to horrific levels, culminating with rubber bullets being shot at freedom protesters. Victoria Police targeted freedom activists with incitement charges and issued them countless multi-thousand-dollar fines for breaching Chief Health Officer directions. One of those freedom activists who was targeted, surveilled, fined, and even imprisoned was Father Christian and MMA fighter Nick Paterson, whose Cranbourne gym was the scene of countless Victoria Police stakeouts. Nick is facing very serious charges of assaulting police stemming from Victoria Police's aggressive suppression of a freedom protest during lockdown number 4 on Saturday, the 29th of May last year. He faces trial later this year, and if found guilty would face a mandatory minimum sentence of 6 months.
Hi, my name is Nick Paterson. On the 29th of May 2021, my friends and I were targeted, stalked, assaulted, and then arrested by police. I was badly injured in this interaction. My right shoulder was dislocated, my body was beaten, and these criminals, they wrote up false statements and caused me to spend 29 days in jail, even though I'd committed no crime. The police did that. They wrote false statements to put me in jail. I was then released on bail with a gag order and other conditions which were completely unrelated to the charges that were laid against me. In these bail conditions, I could not speak on any website, anybody else's website, or any public forum, anything relating to the police, the government, state or federal, the law, state or federal, the COVID pandemic, the show directions. Effectively, I was restricted from telling my own story and exposing the police for what they were. Ignorant people are the most dangerous, in my opinion, and these ignorant police will continue committing crimes unless we take them to task on it. There are some major issues with the system which allows police to conduct themselves in such a way which is morally repugnant to the conscience that they're doing it. We need to change that. I aim to argue my case and set a number of legal precedents which would change the way in which police are prosecuted and how the bail process is being used to silence political dissent. I've engaged a top legal team to maximise the outcome we want to achieve in the courts. The process will take some time, it's going to cost some money, and I need your help because I want to change the current system and put these corrupt criminal cops in jail. My family has also suffered greatly. All the biased reports from the mainstream media about us, the police harassment at my home, sometimes at 1 o'clock in the morning, just checking in on us, which we know is just harassment, and the police did it consistently. Enough is enough. Please help me to put these corrupt police behind bars and change the current system in the process. And God willing, we'll make Australia a better place to live. I've always been a believer in standing up for yourself, standing up for your rights and doing what's moral and true according to conscience. We started the Australian Peacemakers for that reason, because the police were committing crimes, they were violently assaulting people, and I've always been one that's been good at bringing people together, and bringing people together on the right values and on the right morals. I've always sought to bring people to God. That's the reason I was targeted by the police. My Instagram and Facebook accounts were shut down the day after I ran a rally. We took thousands of people to the police headquarters, and we noticed them that they were acting under dictation, which was an offence. For that reason, I'm convinced both my social media accounts, Instagram and Facebook, permanently disabled, no way to appeal it, no reason given. This is how you get treated in this system. They don't like any political dissent. They don't like people standing up for their rights. They don't want people that have courage and conviction and are willing to defend others. That's why it's so important that you support me in this battle. Help me to take them on, because I won't concede and quit. I've got the will and the heart. I know what it is to fight, and I'm not afraid to do it. So please support me in this endeavour and help empower me so I can empower others. If God be for us, who can be against us? So let's continue to let our light shine.
Nick, welcome back to WIlmsFront.
Oh, how are you, mate? Thanks for having us.
I'm good. It's been a while since we've had an on-air chat. We've had some, brief, friendly discussions at the Freedom rallies this year. You're a regular on not just WIlmsFront, but the then Uncuckables program in 2020. But obviously, as after what happened to you on that day in May 2021, you were gagged for you're imprisoned for 29 days. How long was your media gag in place for, and how did you get it lifted?
Yeah, so my I was gagged for a few months. I was given the strictest of bail conditions. So for the alleged offences, which didn't really happen, and I've shared the body camera footage from the police. I don't care what the Surveillance Act says about that, because I know that it's a matter of public interest, that the people need to see it, and there is a provision in there. So I shared it to show people what was happening from the police. Everyone that's seen it, including barristers, including other police officers, say what the police did was wrong. It's black and white clear, and it was assault charges, a multitude of assault charges, and some resisting arrest charges, and one breaching show directions charge, right? And there was 24 in total, I think, 24 or 23. And the bail conditions were a complete gag order. I couldn't speak about anything. You know, go figure. Like, what's that got to do with me assaulting police, allegedly, which didn't happen? The punches that were thrown at the police were literally in defense of my mate after the police ran across the road and started belting him up. So, this is what they do. They will make up any controversy they can to silence people who are that are getting momentum against the political narrative, and that's what happened to me. I've got the audio from the police, from their own body cameras, where they're actually talking about me and they're pointing me out a number of times. That's Nick Paterson over there. Watch him. Yeah, he's the gym owner, the guy with the mashed ears. Yeah. Hey, can we just go and pick off organisers? Yep, if there's someone you want to grab, just grab them. And then they point out me and say, yeah, he's one of the organisers. So you can see that there's obviously I'm a target. I don't know what they're scared of, because I'm not a violent guy. Even though I ran a fight gym, I'm not someone that goes out and starts fights. I've never done anything like that before. It's just that they have to control the political narrative, and obviously people like myself who have the ability to stand up to the police and explain to them what the law really is in a dignified and clear way, that becomes a threat when the people above are directing the police to commit crimes and to break the law. They rely on the ignorance of the police. And, what I've been doing is trying to, explain to the police that no, that's called acting under dictation, and you can't enforce government directions because it's a conflict of interest, and there's case law for that in this country.
The Victoria Police, they always referred back to their defense of everything that they did is we're just following orders. We don't get to pick and choose what laws we enforce. But like, for example, there's a lot of people openly smoking marijuana in public places in their homes. That's technically illegal. But when was the last raid in a private home for a small amount of marijuana? That's just one example of a law that's on the book that they have picked and chosen not to enforce.
Yeah. Look, I think there's lots of them that they've chosen not to enforce. They've gone over. It's like they've gone over the low hanging fruit, the easy pickings, which has been just your standard, people that are potentially breaching a direction from the government, which really those directions. First of all, anyone that's been, given a fine for breaching the directions, if you haven't been given something formally written to you from the chief health officer or one of their higher up, one of their agents underneath or officers underneath, if you haven't been formally given something in writing informing you of those directions, you can't be obligated to follow them. Okay, just putting something on the TV or the mainstream media isn't enough. They've failed in their obligation to follow their own rules, and yet they want to fine everybody to the point of destroying businesses, destroying families, destroying people's happiness and joy, because you're not following their directions, even though they haven't informed us of those directions the way their own act says they have to. This is called hypocrisy, and these people need to be held to account, but they won't be held to account if people like myself don't go all the way through the courts, because you have to go through the courts to get a result. Okay, you can yell and scream all you like about it and tell everyone how bad it is, but you've got to go through the courts, because that's where the power is, and that's where the power to change the system is. So, that's obviously why I'm on the show today. We're going to talk about that, but that's what I'm going to be doing, is going all the way through the courts, and maximizing all of the evidence that we have. I mean, I've got clear footage that proves that I didn't commit the offences that they claim. I've got clear, statements from the police that contradict their own body camera footage, not just slightly, like completely contradicted. And this is the evil that happens all the time. And I was talking to a friend's lawyer, and this particular friend, his lawyer said to me, "Look, the police do this all the time." He said, "No one cares, Nick. No one cares what's happening to you. No one cares." I said, "You're wrong. People do care now, because so many people have been hurt by the police on this particular issue. And there's a lot of people that are awake to it, and they have realized what the police really are. And for the most part, I'm not saying every police officer, because I've met some really good ones that are decent, that are about it for the right reason. But there is a huge majority of the police that are literally there just getting paid like a pack of animals to go and do whatever, whatever their lords and masters tell them to do. Maybe that's why they used to call them blue heelers on that TV show, like herding up the cattle, because that's how we've been treated, and we can't forget that. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to go all the way through the courts to try to not just win. I mean, I don't have any doubts that I'll win in court, but I want to maximize what we do when we go through the courts. So we go to the county court for a jury trial, and then we might have to up it to higher jurisdictional courts to have some precedents set and changed.
Going back to you mentioned the fines, and what is it? The standard fine, it began at 1,652, and then there was, what is it? If you attended an unauthorized gathering, it was a $5,000 fine. And this is from the ABC back in March, that nearly all the fines are unpaid. And it also mentions that COVID fines, they disproportionately affected the working class, those who were not in stable accommodation or had stable lifestyles or incomes. This is the graph here. Outstanding 73%. Look at that, cancelled, withdrawn 20%. So there's a 20% error rate with this is just the fines in 2021, and 6% of people have paid them. And I don't know what the other one is.
Yeah, I mean, how would you feel if you were given a $5,000 fine, a $20,000 fine, or any of these ridiculous fines when you weren't even informed of what the rules were? And like in my situation, right, when I killed my position at my gym, and I said I'm not going to shut the gym down until unless the police or the government pay me for my losses. And they, what they said to me? Well, go on. You got to go to Centrelink and they'll give you some JobKeeper. I said, no, I don't qualify. We're not having a good year this year with our business anyway, because I had my gym for 12 years. I had to close my gym, by the way, as well. I wasn't having a great year when the COVID madness started, and so I couldn't get JobKeeper anyway. So even if I wanted to, which that's here, there, or wherever, that doesn't even matter. But even if I wanted to, I couldn't get that payment. And then what Centrelink said to me is, but we can give you job seeker payments, which is like $300 a week. I've got a family of 4 little ones, my wife, but you got to wait 6 weeks to get paid. So what we're dealing with is a situation they've created where they expect people in my position to just shut their business down and beg for 6 weeks, because I don't have a whole lot of cash in the bank. I live day to day. When I have a bad year, then I have a good year, I've got money in the bank. That's how it is when you're a small business owner, which I'm not anymore, because they've done their due diligence to make sure that I'm not.
And going back to this article here, so it says Victoria Police firm on infringement notices. They said that fines played an important role in keeping Victorians safe during the pandemic. Anyone caught flouting the rules and putting themselves and those around them at risk were fined, regardless of where they lived. And it has here, Shea Patton says he was yet to be convinced officers had acted disproportionately when enforcing lockdown rules. People who received infringement wouldn't have been given them just on a whim. That's what he says.
Well, it's interesting because you've got now there's not enough ambulance, paramedics and ambos around to deal with all the sick people, which and I don't believe it's from this alleged virus that they claim that it's I don't believe it's from monkeypox. Okay, so there's a lot of sick people. We don't have enough police, don't have enough, nurses, enough of any of these anymore because of what the government has done. Okay, so the government has created a situation where we are in a lot of danger, and it's a very volatile situation that they've created, and the economy is not doing real well either. So they've created it. It's all been the government response to this narrative they've created. That's all it is. It's not real. None of it's real. If you remove the government from it, we would be living a lot better, and it would probably be a lot happier.
I mentioned the COVID stats at the beginning because in 2020, Dan Andrews declared a state of disaster over 700 new cases in a day, and it's the reason that we're told we're able to live with COVID now is because of the vaccines. But I think it's like you and I have been saying we should have been living this way from the beginning. I mean, during previous pandemics, lockdowns were considered just disproportionate, and we've seen the no lockdown. Well, I shouldn't call them experiments, but just basically practicing what should have been practiced. Sweden and Florida. I think a lot of people should be reflecting, like, what was the point if it's just these huge stats every day?
Yeah, well, especially when you realize that the definition of pandemics changed to to where it's no longer people that are dying or in critically ill. It's just people that have test positive to a particular thing, right? So things like I haven't seen people dropping dead on the street. Never did. I don't think you have. And I would say that probably the
No.
majority of us have not seen that. So this idea that they've presented on the TV is just a lie. Just like when they said that they shut my gym down on Channel 7 News and in all those papers, and they said that my gym was shut down. That was a lie because my gym wasn't shut down. They didn't. The police, we had 18 police cars that turned up to the gym and Channel 7, but no one entered the property because we weren't there and the gates were shut. They never entered the property. Just like when the police said that I punched a police officer the first time because I've got a trial for another rally where I was assaulted, but they've said that I've assaulted them, which seems to be a standard thing.
This is the photo here where, like, you're obviously, you're out of control there. Like, I mean, look how does it, dangerous you are just on the ground there.
Yeah. And of course they said that I punched a police officer on all the news channels, yet there was no punch thrown on that day. And there probably should have been, because I would have been justified in what the police were doing to unlawfully arresting this woman, going after me. But anyway, so they just lie on that occasion. They did the same thing when they showed a picture of me throwing a punch at a police officer a year later at a rally, when actually what happened was the police told us to leave the area. We did, and we were going home, and then the police stalked us and assaulted us multiple times on the way. It was the public order response team, and finally, because we were, I guess our values were such that we weren't going to. We could see that they were trying to stir us up and get us to react by blocking off the roads, and as we walk around, they'll start pushing us and screaming and yelling at us because that's what police do. They don't know how to de-escalate anything. And then they ran across the road and they started just punching up my mate, just bashing him. And we've gone into defending, which we have every right to do. And every barrister and every police officer I've spoken about this has said, you haven't done anything wrong, Nick. And I don't, and they think that I'll get off this. But I want to further this, because the mainstream media, their involvement's been a huge part of it. They actually said that I was violent, and they made out, this beat up piece about the protesters. And of course, the front page of The Age was me throwing a punch. And the people filming and taking those photos saw the whole thing, but they chose to run with that image, didn't they? They didn't choose to put the image of the police punching my mate up. No, because that would break the narrative created by the government. What they did is they wanted to. The government have been creating this narrative that we're all extremists, we're all conspiracy theorists, and they want to run with that. So they're just media whores. That's all they are. They're media whores, and they don't have any integrity. The police that are engaged in this are the same. I mean, there were about 20 police officers that wrote false statements up. I'm amazed that not one of those police officers on that particular day in 2021, did the right thing and said, you know what, you guys are all lying. We did the wrong thing, and I'm going to tell the truth. None of them did. Isn't that amazing? And that's how I gauge it. I go, well, if not one of those 20 police officers did the right thing, then I think you're too far gone now.
They all stick together. I mean, I interviewed last year. You've probably heard of Evelyn Ray. She's a commentator and is active on Twitter and Instagram. She spoke at some of the Sydney Freedom Rally. She spoke about the culture of the police, how you like bleed blue, and it's like a culture sort of touch one, touch all, and I can probably see that a lot of police prosecution resources would have been thrown at putting a case against you. That's maybe why we don't see Luke Cornelius on the TV anymore. He's busy trying to get a case to lock you away. He's probably watching right now, binging on some KFC and Krispy Kreme donuts. Hello, Luke.
Hi, Luke. How are you, mate?
But it seems that what they're trying to get you on, and this is sort of, I've heard other people talk about, like the fact that it wasn't you who was physically under threat; it was your friends. So you weren't self-defending yourself; you're self-defending someone else, and which is when you're up against the police.
Yeah, well, it's really simple. The self-defense is 322K of our Crimes Act, and it says in there you can defend the person or another person. That's it. You don't, self-defense isn't just to defend yourself. You can defend others that have crimes committed against them. If someone's detaining someone against, depriving them of their liberty, detaining someone unlawfully, arresting someone unlawfully, assaulting someone, you have every right to defend them. Our law allows that, except if it's against police, because if it's against police, well, the law doesn't matter anymore. They just do whatever they want.
That's pretty much how I've been interpreting the law over the past 2 years. I mean, you saw that the police officer who stomped on that mentally ill man's head got away with it. The police officer who choked that woman for not wearing a mask, even though she had an exemption, got away with it. The only prosecution that is happening is the police officer who body slammed that person into the pavement at the steps of Flinders Street Station. The old lady who was hit and pepper sprayed while she was on the ground. There's that internal investigation apparently can't go anywhere because the old lady won't cooperate.
Yeah, and this is the thing. So in order to change the system, and you have to go all the way through the system. Now, the process is really taxing and grueling, because what happens is they wear you out, right? It costs you a lot of money. Now, the police aren't paying any money to go to court, okay, and bear witness against me and lie, and that doesn't cost them any money. They're actually getting paid to do that, whereas I'm not getting paid. I've had my business destroyed, right? This is the power that they have, right? I have had my business destroyed, and now I've got to somehow get money to have proper representation. Now, I could represent myself. I've done that in many other cases, but this one's too important because the police stuffed up so badly. Okay, so I've got court coming up next week. I've got 2 court cases. One to do with my gym, opening my gym up during a lockdown. The other one for another interaction with one of the police officers who stalked me into a shopping centre car park a year prior to the 2021 rally, and he actually ran across the road in that rally. He was one of the same police officers, he's a member of the port squad. So I've got these other ones that aren't really that important. I can deal with those myself, but I've got this big one where I go, we have to take this all the way because we have clear evidence of what the police are doing. We have enough witnesses, and we have we have false statements that they've been perjured by these corrupt police, and we need to fight this corrupt police. We need to stop it because it's power gone crazy, right? Power corrupts people, and they've got the worst of people, obviously, in the police force doing this. Now, not all of them. I've met some good ones. That have said to me, Nick, I hope you win, and I hope you get those guys. And these are active police officers now. So there are some, but I haven't met that many. Okay, so there's something in the police force that is so rife and disgusting that needs to change. Well, I have the ability to do that. A lot of people don't have the ability to do it, even if they've been assaulted really badly and it's really clear, because they don't have the resources. Maybe they don't have the will to go all the way through the courts. They just want it to end. And a lot of people, they just plea up. So they'll just go, look, I'll just plead guilty to the small ones so that I can get off the rest of them, right? And this is what the police officer, that former police officer, who was online with us the other day said this is what they used to do. It's called the lettuce, cheese, tomato. Okay, it's your standard operating procedure. Is if the police go too far, what they do is they will charge them with assault. Intentionally, I think it's one of them's assault, one of the assault charges, and resist arrest, and it's their standard operating procedure. So then you have to defend yourself and go through all of this pain and suffering before you can even start to get an advantage over them. And this is what's happening all the time. And obviously, a lot of these people, like this, the lady that was pushed over, that she probably just thinks, you know what, I don't want to spend the next 10 years fighting these people in the courts. But that is what happens sometimes. Like Karina Horvath versus Australia, she was a woman who won, but it took her about 21 years to win against the police, who kicked in her door, bashed her up, broke her nose. She was unconscious, and she just kept losing and losing. And in the end, they had to change the system to accommodate for her situation, and they did. So now it's faster. It doesn't take 21 years to prosecute the police, but I'm willing to go all the way, and I've got a lot of people backing me, which is why I can do it. But if you didn't have that, there's no way you can fund it yourself unless you're very wealthy. So basically, justice is for the people with money and maybe those who have the morals. We have to have the morals and the money to get it. If you don't have that, there's no way you can really win unless you have the knowledge to do it yourself, which is incredibly hard, because how do you do all of the paperwork, all of the research, and all of the rest of it while you're working a job and having a family? It's basically impossible. So that's why I'm in a different situation, because I do have some knowledge, and I have a lot of friends that have a lot of knowledge, and I've got people backing me to fund my part of my legal costs. And we're still fundraising, trying to raise funds so that we can take it all the way and and win. And I won't give up until it's done. The job's done.
And it will be a high stakes trial later this year, because if you're found guilty and convicted, you'll face a mandatory minimum of 6 months imprisonment, and the Victoria Police will be wanting your sentence to be as long as possible. Now, you've got 4 children. You've got a very supportive wife as well. If you are obviously you're going to appeal, but have you and your family prepared for the possibility that, well, you spent 29 days in prison last year, that you could be spending a lot more?
Look, this world, I've discovered, is just a very evil place. It doesn't like the truth. Okay, I mean, we live in a world where basically they're transitioning boys into girls and girls into boys without the parents' consent. We live in a world where they can't define what a woman is in Western society. We live in a world where they pillage and plunder poorer nations. Right? We live in a world where we've had full-term abortion. Where they can, and I think in the California, your baby can be 3 weeks old and you can kill it, right? We live in a really backward world. It's a sick world, and the legal system is consistent with that. I mean, we just saw what happened to the Aussie Cossack, and he's 10 months in jail for naming somebody that he wasn't meant to name, who's committed very, very horrendous crimes against children. And he gets 10 months in jail. So we can see what it is, and that's why I need people to back me. I need the people with me, because I can't do this by myself. I can't take on the state, but I've got a lot of people backing me, a lot of people behind me. We're getting the resources to pay, and I won't quit. There's no way the police can say to me, look, look, if you just plead guilty to this one, we'll let the rest of them go. No.
Yeah, you're never going to do that.
Never. I would go to jail for the rest of my life before I would do that. It would never happen. We're going to fight you to the bitter end, because the truth does prevail, and I truly believe that, and it has been my experience.
On the Aussie Cossack, Simeon Boykov, so it's a 10-month maximum sentence with 6 months non-parole. Up on the Aussie Cossack channel, Mrs. Cossack uploaded this video discussing how she was feeling.
Hello everyone, today is 30th of June and I'm at Belwood local courthouse. The Aussie Cossack, my husband, was just sentenced to 10 months with 6 months non-parole period. I'm shocked, I'm devastated. He has instructed his barrister to file an appeal to district court. Thank you very much for all your donations. Thank you so much for all your support, for the postcards that you've sent to Simeon. It's very important. That holds him positive and he is very strong. The Aussie Cossack now is in Long Bay Correctional Facility. He is not allowed any visitors because of his status, and he has been declared as a national security risk. We'll update you with more. Thank you.
So he's basically in solitary for, well, because he's not jabbed and because he's deemed a national security risk or threat because of his, I assume, pro-Russian views.
Yeah, look, they'll create anything, anything like that. I mean, they said that I was an extremist because I started a Christian group called the Australian Peacemakers, and they said that this was in court. They said that I was because they denied me bail, so I had to wait 29 days to get another bail hearing. Right, so I'm just sitting in jail, and they the prosecution was saying that I'm I've been saying telling people to fight with police and get people from the fight gyms to fight with police. And they just lied, and they said this. And we said, well, what video did I say that? And then they mentioned a particular video. Well, we watched that video, and we saw that I knew I didn't say that, and it was just a lie, complete fabrication. And this is what they do. They'll create anything they can to put you away and keep you there. They don't care if it's true. It's like the Monica Smith that gets done for incitement. What incitement? How was she inciting people to go and commit violent crimes? To commit crimes, right? Oh, because she suggested not following the Cho directions. How is that? That can't be incitement. It actually doesn't meet the definition for incitement.
The virus is violence, but the virus is not violence now.
And then you've got the Paul Furlong, the church pastor.
Yeah, he got him late last year.
Yeah, and so he's gets these incitement charges. They create this thing, this narrative about people like they're really dangerous and they're a threat. He's a threat because he wanted to run church. That was the dangerous aspect to his existence, was that I want to bring people to church and to Jesus. That's all he wanted to do. That's his whole life. And for doing that, they put him in jail as well. And then we ran the church for him that day that he got put in jail. And then the police turn up at the church, which was outdoors as well, and they violently assaulted Anthony Lev, one of the guys that was at the church, and grabbed him in a headlock and threw him, tossed him around like a sack of potatoes onto the ground, and that's what they do. So it's all backwards. There's no logic. Don't even think about using logic in this. There's no logic to it. It's just people that have power issues, and they have to control the narrative. And people like Simeon Boykoff, who's got a big following, and he's speaking out against them. Well, I'm sure they have their meetings, all these elite people in their little lodges, where they say, how do we deal with him? What are we going to do? And they think about these things, and they're always looking for some way to put them in jail. Now, he said something about someone which was true. He didn't lie. He told the truth, and I believe that's a truth that should be out. That's my opinion. But the government protects people that commit those kinds of crimes for some reason, and they would have gone, yes, that's our chance. We can put him in jail. We can put him in jail for a long time now. We can, that's it. And that's really a statement to the rest of the people. Don't do what he did.
Yes, exactly.
To you. Yeah.
And when prisons are still, they're basically still COVID gulags. Like it's
Yeah.
it's like it's the height of the pandemic, and well, especially if you're a prisoner that's unjabbed, you basically get the Hannibal Lecter treatment. Last year, the police also dislocated your shoulder. So you came off second best in that scuffle. But what was the protocols like? What the COVID protocols during your stay?
Well, the first 15 days, actually it was 15 days. It's actually 14, but I got an extra day of the first 15. So was complete isolation. You know, it's to mess with your head.
So full 24 hours, not were you even allowed out for like, say, like a, you know,
Day 6, I got to walk in the corridor for 10 minutes. And then the next 9 days, I got to walk in the corridor for 20 minutes. That's it.
Yeah, because you know, the virus, it's so dangerous. But it was like the first 6 days, it was unsafe for you to leave at all. But it was okay for, what is that, 10, 20 minutes later on.
I've stopped thinking about logic. There's no logic to it. It's
I think it's still worth reminding people about just how ridiculous this all was, because of the like the way that we're living with COVID now. Like I've stated my position. I mean, you're out and about now. I mean, it's only the hypochondriacs who still wear the masks. It's, and the QR codes, they're thankfully gone. Most of the mandates are as well. I mean, how do you reflect on how Victoria is now compared to what we were subjected to in 2020, 2021?
I was happy with the government pushing it even further, because I know they went too far, and the people realised that it's what's happening is just outright crazy. And I was like, I think it's good that the people experience that, so that they realise what these people are. They shouldn't have this much power in the first place. Governments are they're meant to be there. The only purpose for a government is to be there to protect your liberty and your property. That's it. That's the reason for it. We're not meant to have rulers. We're meant to have public servants, but we've ended up with rulers. They've switched the role. You know, they're the rulers. They rule over us, and we saw that. But the reason that this happens now, the governments aren't the ones committing the crimes. It's always the ignorant people that go along with it. That's the lowest common denominator. They're the minions, right? And that's the problem. We've got plenty of minions. We don't have a lot of people that are moral, that go, you know what, this is wrong, and they listen to their conscience and they follow that. We do have them, but we don't have as many as we do of the other. And it's interesting because there's a book called Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, and I read this not long ago. And in that book, this actually represents the policy adopted by the Bilderberg Group in 1954. I don't know if you know who the Bilderberg Group is. They're kind of the movers and shakers of how the world's going to go. It's the top people in the industry, and they have a meeting every 4 years. They have a meeting, but yeah, it said that the education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort, so that the mote of ignorance isolating the inferior class from the superior class is and remains incomprehensible to the inferior class. With such an initial handicap, even bright lower class individuals have little, if any, hope of extricating themselves from their assigned lot in life. That's literally what it says in that book. This was in 1954. So you look at it and you go, well, because I look at the education system now and I go, it really does, because I homeschool my little ones. The education system really does teach people to worship government and to worship men and women who have a title next to their name, like they're special. Okay, that gives respect to persons, and we've been trained to believe that, you know, you've got to pay your taxes, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, without question. And that's why it's so dangerous. You've got people turning up to. I mean, you've got people. I had COVID marshals turn up to my gym, and they're asking me about putting, you know, my, what do they call it, a COVID safe plan. And I said, look, I'll provide that for you, when you provide me some evidence that I'm required to provide that to you. And I was hoping that he was going to engage with me and say, well, you have to, or something like that. But he didn't. But if he had have, I would have said, are you paying me to do this work for you? Because if you're not, then that's the definition of slavery. You want me to work for you and create a COVID safe plan for you, so that, which I don't want to do and I don't believe in, but I'm expected to do that work, and it's laborsome. And I don't want to do
or
it.
else
And you
they'll take more of your money. That's the threat. I mean, throughout these COVID safe plans that businesses had to provide and enforce, it was governments getting businesses to do their dirty work for them.
Yes, exactly. And that's the problem. They're the minions. They're the ones that are enforcing the madness on the rest of us. It's not the governments. The governments are like, they're just shouting this noise out of their safe spaces to the rest of the world through the mainstream media. But then you've got these people below them that believe it. I've got to do that. So what they're doing is they're saying, look, my conscience says this is wrong, but I'm not going to listen to that. The light of God that's within me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go along with what the government says, because they really think of government like God, like the highest authority. That's what it is. Forget the conscience. Forget what you know is moral and correct, because the government said so. That's what it is.
And that's what we saw throughout this past 2 years, that when governments they ratcheted up the rules, there was almost universal compliance. And when they relaxed them, for example, the mask rules, the masks came off automatically. And when the QR codes were finally gone, they disappeared completely. I think it's disappeared into a lot of people's memory hole, that to go into any business, you had to basically put your information into a government database. And obviously, you're right that particularly the Victorian government pushing Victorians too far. We saw the week of rage in September 2021, but we also saw, for the first time in January of this year, when the Omicron wave just swept the nation, heaps of people getting COVID, and vaccinated or unvaccinated, it was mild, and they're like, oh, that was all. Let's just get on with life.
Yeah. Now you've got all these economic problems that aren't going to go away now. You know, all these health problems now. There's a lot of people getting sick after getting these jabs, and I've met many of them. I know many of them. But then trying to prove that is another thing. I know a few people that have actually got paperwork stating that they have had an adverse reaction, and they're stuffed. These people are stuffed. They might not ever come good, right? And that's on paper. But how hard it is to get that paper as well is another part of this whole, complex that they've created. It's absolutely evil, and it's brilliant. But it's not even so much that it's brilliant. It's brilliant how they've been able to diminish the people into believing this and going along with it and giving all their heart, might, mind, and strength over to something that is so obviously against the human conscience and against what's right and reasonable in the mind. That is the incredible part about this, and that's the brilliant component of it. But I think that goes back to what was in that book, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, where the education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort. Because if we understood morals, if we understood all these things, and we understood critical thinking, which critical thinking is not, and the reason I'm bringing up education is because that's a root cause of a lot of our problems. Okay, if people knew how to think for themselves, and I don't think most people do, because I think most people they think in their minds that they have their own thoughts, but the thoughts they have are actually from the mainstream media. That's what they have. They speak as though they're Channel 9 speaking through them, or Sky News is speaking through them. And so they don't have their original thoughts because they're not critically thinking about things themselves, which takes away our creativity. And that's that's the actual reason, the main reason why I'm such a big believer in homeschooling, because even if you don't teach maths or reading as well as the school, you're teaching them how to think for themselves and how to be who they're meant to be, rather than conforming to fit a mold that might not be them or their character.
It was one of the most disgraceful things that children were muzzled at school for so long. Like, it just broke my heart to see those photos of kids in classrooms with masks on.
Classical conditioning of the children. Yeah, it's classical conditioning. My boy was doing a homeschool art class, and and he had the teacher in the class. She tried to tell him that he needs to get vaccinated. We all have to get vaccinated. And my son's 10. He would have been 9 at the time. He's like, no, we have human rights. And she goes, no, you don't have a right to refuse the vaccine. She says, yes, you do. And my son's standing up to the teacher. And actually, a lot of the other kids in that class, they were all of the same mindset that our family is as well. They're from families that don't believe the narrative. So the majority backed him. But you can see that's, if he was just in the school, I don't think he would have been able to do that. He wouldn't have had the knowledge and the capacity to do that, because you're basically trying to offset with the time you spend with your children if they're at school with your values, and it's a conflict. You're getting these two options that are going to war with each other. But at least when I have my boys with me, for the most part, they're getting the values that I believe in, and I obviously I want what's best for my little ones. The state doesn't. The state doesn't. The state wants them to be minions, to go along with the government. That's all they want. They don't care about them. I care about them, and that's why I think homeschooling is such a beautiful thing. And when I saw all the muzzling of the little ones, and now they're really pushing the jabs on them as well. Like,
Yeah. Well,
it's
coming soon is the mRNA, Pfizer and Moderna jabs for 6 months to 5-year-olds, and also coming in around August is the Omicron tailored boosters for everyone, which because we're up to, what is it, Omicron BS 4 and 5 now.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, how like it's almost, it really is like an IQ test. And that's the sad part, is you can tell people that and show people how wrong this is, that people can't see it. And this is, I don't know if you remember or if you've seen an interview with a guy named Yuri Bezmenov, and he was speaking to I think it was in 1986, 1985, to a guy named G. Edward Griffin. He's the guy that wrote the book The Creature from Jekyll Island.
Yes, I think I've seen that video.
Yeah, and he basically says, Yuri Bezmenov says, because he was a KGB defector, he says, we're not going to remove the truth from people. The plan is to corrupt the minds of those people so that when they're faced with the truth, they can't comprehend it. And I go, wow, that was in 1985. That's brilliant, because you try to show people the truth and the stats, and you try to get them to comprehend it, and they can't. And I'm not saying everybody, obviously there's people that watch this show can, but the majority can't. Or they struggle to do that. It's like their minds, something's blocking their ability to think about these things, because there's a voice inside saying, no, it's wrong, don't listen. And so they can't critically think, because something's in there blocking their ability to rationally think about what's going on and see the full perspective, or at least a higher perspective, when they can see, what it's starting here, it's ending there. These are the results. These are the variables. It doesn't add up. They can't seem to do that. And that's been done to us. I truly believe that that's been done to the people, because I don't think this could have been done 100 years ago. I think people were able to think for themselves better. Maybe I'm wrong, but I spent a lot of time with my grandfather, and he was from, way back, maybe not 100 years ago, but he was from, a long time ago, and he was very much a critical thinker. He wasn't indoctrinated into this system, but it seems to have been, the later generations. And I think we're going back the other way now, where a lot of people are pulling out of the system. And you can see this exodus out of the system with the homeschooling groups and how big they are now. They're used to, because we've homeschooled the whole time, but and we used to get like maybe 6-8 people in a homeschool group. Now there's sometimes like 50 people there. So you can see the numbers are different, and there's a lot more homeschool groups too. So there's a lot more people doing it. They just don't want any part of this system, because they can see that it's corrupted. And we don't want our kids, engaging in that. We don't want our kids' minds being seared with a hot iron. and having their conscience and their light just taken away, and believe that they're just this piece of merchandise, and that's all they are. You know, how much money they can make is all they are. So they've got to memorize everything that they're told to, so that they can get a job that pays them money, so that becomes their life and their identity, rather than actually becoming who they're meant to be in this world and thinking for themselves and actually being creative.
The reason why, like, you've got a jury trial, the reason why I think it's possible that there could be unanimous jury verdict finding you guilty is because of what you've described. I mean, they'll be taking instruction from the judge, and if you look at the reason why the governments for so long got away with the lockdowns and the mandates is because they knew they had popular support, and so you could get a jury of 12 people who basically have bought into it and believe that you're this extremist person who went around looking for fights with police.
Yeah, and they can also have you can have a set up jury as well. It can be like relatives and friends of the police, like that. That's a fact that can happen. So you got to do some due diligence on that as well. But at the end of the day, I don't worry about the things I don't have control over. There's no point. Why worry about it? I have no control over that. And I learned that as a professional fighter. So we're going to fight another opponent, study how they fight and everything. But when I go out there to fight, I don't worry about what they're going to do, because it doesn't help me. It diminishes me. So what I do is I go, what am I going to do? And I just solely focus on that. And I think we have a very good case, because I believe the police went so far beyond what they should have done. They can't cover it up. They've stuffed up. In my opinion, they've just stuffed up, and they've done it and then they've tried to cover it up, and that's ended up blowing up as well. And they can't cover it up. It's all going to come out. And we might even get, who knows? I don't want to say too much about it, because I don't want to give anything away. But we're coming for you. Okay, if any police are watching this, we're coming for you. You're not going to get away with it. And even if I sit in prison for years, I will keep fighting your life until you get, you receive the penalty that's deserving. It's never going to go away in your whole life if you think that, get me in jail and you win, because I'm not going away. I'll be working in the background until I get you. And it's going to happen. So my suggestion is to those police, tell the truth, okay, acknowledge it and do the right thing, okay, rather than keep lying and trying to cover it up and put me in jail when you've done the wrong thing. We all know you have. People have seen it. It's black and white clear. So that's all I want to say on that issue. Is if anyone wants to support me, please do. But I'm going after them.
You go to it's AustralianPeacemakers.com.donate, or there is the video that I played at the beginning, fightcorruptpolice.com redirects there.
Yeah, that just goes straight there, fightcorruptpolice.com. Yep, and if you can, got a few videos there of what happened. So people can see the footage of what's actually happened, and the body cam footage. So you got this city protest full video. It shows everything, all of what they did, and you can see it broken down. And they've committed a lot of offences, very, very criminal offences. And we're gonna expose it all. What were we doing? We went to go to a rally. We went to go to a rally. That's all we went to do. And then we couldn't get it. Then we were told to leave, and we did. And then we were assaulted for leaving. That was it. That's reality.
This was all called a public health response, but we all know it was a police state response. They always had enough police during this public health response, but we were told that there was never going to be enough doctors and nurses, though the police seem to have endless resources. Why couldn't that be put into the health system? But this year, now that there's a shortage of police, this is from 7 News and featuring the Police Association Secretary Wayne Gatt.
Police is facing a staffing crisis crisis, with at least 3 stations forced to close this weekend. The state government is blaming the shortfall on sick workers, but the Police Association says the force is being poorly run.
Sunbury today felt the impact of a shortage of available police. The 24-hour station without enough frontline officers to operate a divvy van. The closest available police vans were in Broadmeadows and Craigieburn. The Police Association believes the force isn't meeting minimum service standards for the community.
McDonald's is servicing the community of Victoria better than Victoria Police at this point in time.
24-hour stations at Williamstown and at Sandringham closed the doors to the public yesterday because police at neighbouring stations were off sick.
Victoria Police receive record amounts of funding and have record delivery of frontline and specialist delivery of police right across the state.
The Police Association believes the allocation of almost 18,000 officers and PSOs is a bigger problem than absenteeism. It wants to see 420 officers currently working on police task forces to be reallocated to stations.
This is on Victoria Police. Their allocation model is completely wrong, and their management of police stations and their management of their own resources is almost non-existent.
Up to 50 police were allocated to a task force operating in Melbourne's northwest this weekend as the Sunbury station was left understaffed.
That's a flawed model. That's absolutely bonkers.
Chief Crime Reporter Cameron Bowe has an update from Police Cam. They've moved to reassure the public.
Beck, Victoria Police is insisting that the temporary closure of the stations didn't slow their response times. They did consider calling up members of a task force to help out at Williamstown, but decided against that on the basis that those police had already covered a protest in the city yesterday, Beck.
OK, Cam, thank you.
Oh no, there's not enough police on the beat. That was my reaction.
Plenty of criminals and thieves out there. You know, there's plenty of home invasions. That really happens. I know a few people that have had home invasions in their home. Oh, and you're not allowed to defend yourself with anything substantial. You're not allowed to have a gun to defend yourself. They have guns. All the criminals have guns. All of them do. All the bad ones do. But you're not allowed to have one to defend yourself. But there's no police to defend you either. So basically,
but there's some for a task force for a protest in the city. There's enough for that, of course.
Yeah. No, that's because that's real police work now. That's the new police work. You know, and they've done such a good job of disarming people in every way. Like a friend of mine, he's a footy coach, and he said to me, he goes, there's this kid, and he's a young kid, and he's 7, and he told me that, like, he just swore at him like terrible. I'm not even going to say what this kid said. And he goes, I don't know what to do. I'm not allowed to discipline him. I can't do anything. I said, and that's the problem, because you're not allowed to do anything. You know, you're not meant to discipline kids. You're going to let them do whatever they want. You know, this is the problem. They've disarmed us. They've taken away our words. We can't say certain words because that could be incitement. That could be extreme. Could be extreme.
Oh, and also, what is it? Words can also be hate speech. You can go to prison for that. Also, can go to prison for drawing a certain symbol in public, or what's the new offence? 5 years imprisonment for conduct that is grossly offensive to public decency, something like that.
I didn't even know that one, but it does.
It's supposed to deal with what Richard Pussy did, filming dying police, and we're promised that this will only be for like really obscene acts like he did, but we've seen how they've weaponized all these other acts in the past.
Yeah, I don't think we should give the government any power. They just abuse it. They can't not abuse it. It's gone to their head. Power corrupts, right? And this is the problem. It corrupts them. We've given them so much power, and we've given all our power over to them, where they do everything for us. This is the problem with our system that we have. You can't do anything. You can't say anything. You've got to let us, we've got to let us do it. And the state just steals from people. They take their houses off them for not paying rates. You know, who are the councils anyway?
what I know they're doing in New South Wales for unpaid fines, like suspending driver's licenses, making it difficult for those people with unpaid fines to access certain things.
Now, how is that serving the public? How are they actually helping the public to function? How are they helping people to have a better quality of life? They are not. It's all about control. And
Yeah, it's about making people obey the rules, as Dan Andrews always said.
By completely destroying their lives because of something that's probably some strict liability thing. And it's interesting. So I think it was random breath tests that we had in. Now, I don't even drink. I don't even drink alcohol at all.
No, you don't.
No. But random breath tests, I'm pretty sure that became a strict liability issue here with only a few hundred people rallying Parliament to get that to happen. And someone said to me, he said, "So you only need a few hundred people and you can change policy." And I said, "Well, we had about 500,000 people out the front of Parliament and nothing happened. And we did this we had thousands and thousands of people out the front of Parliament for every single week for over a year. And nothing happened in Parliament. So it actually depends on whether it's in their favour and it gives them more power or not. If it's going to give them more power, a couple hundred people, yep, we'll do that because it's good for them. But if you want to change something that's good for us, that isn't good for them, no, sorry, we can't help you. And they won't listen. They don't care. And that's what they are. It's just like a cult of people that control the power and they keep it in their groups. That's all it is. And you're not in the club. I'm not in the club, and we will never be in the club. So it's hard. It's a hard battle to function with some happiness and joy in this society when there is that group of people with all that power, and they basically make decisions for you in your best interest. This is what they say, even though they're not in your best interest, they're in their best interest. And it's always been like that. If you look at everything they've done in the last decade. You tell me how many things have been in our favour. How many things have given us more freedom and liberty? Nothing. It's just to diminish our freedom and ability. It's restricted us more and more and more. And now, if your children, are in a school and they want to teach them all sorts of things about how they can be a fairy and they can be genderless, you can't say no to that. You can't.
Otherwise, you can go to jail.
That's right. Think of this is the backwards reality. It's so wrong, and I think the fact that people go along with it amazes me. I watched that documentary, "What Is a Woman?" the other day, and it's like I had a morbid laugh in it, because it was kind of funny, but it's sick too. It's very, very sad that there are people in the top echelons of academia who obviously they're there not because they're the most intelligent people. They're there because they go along. They go along to get along because they weren't very intelligent. Some of these people, they were just, they'll ask the simple question, "What is a woman?" And it was like, well, what do you mean? And none of them could answer it because they had to actually acknowledge that there was something wrong in their thinking, and all the textbooks that they were memorizing and regurgitating didn't give them that answer, and they weren't able to answer
it. The head of Australia's Department of Health, Professor Brendan Murphy, AC, because he got a Order of Australia medal this year. He was asked the definition of woman and said, "Oh, it's very contested. We'll take it on notice and provide you with a more detailed answer." He's provided one now 3 months after that. I'll cover that tomorrow night on Trad Tasman Talk. But he's supposedly the health expert, head of our health department responsible for all this.
Yeah, he's probably just friends of someone or family members of someone else that's in the government. They're all mates. I know there's factions that aren't friends, but it's all these power factions, and they are all. It's almost like Game of Thrones, isn't it? I only saw one season of that because I couldn't watch any more after that. But what I did see, it was like these ruling families, and they're all trying to get more power. It's no different. It's the same thing now. They all just want more power for their little group, so that they can rule and reign over the rest of us. That's it. But anyway, that's that's obviously, my opinion. I'm not saying that it's factual. It's just how I look at it. But I reckon it is that. It does look to me as being one group that's in a bit of a club. They all go to, they go to those top schools. There's very few politicians that are, that have gone to public schools or, or been homeschooled and aren't in that club. Like they are. They all seem to be part of this, these groups or these families that all know each other. And they speak a little bit different. And I learned that in the Liberal Party, where they have a certain way of speaking to each other. And you can see it when you're around these people a lot. You can zone in on it. You go, that's not normal speech. Like, what are they saying? Why are they saying it like that? So anyway, that's I'm going off topic and I'm going on a bit of a tangent. So
not much has really changed, like with the change of government at the federal election. I mean, Albo, or Anil as we also call him, is copping a lot of flack for jet setting all overseas, and they're saying who's actually running the country. Well, I think it's good that nobody's actually here running the country. I prefer that he would just leave us alone. But there was a bit of disappointment at the results for the Freedom parties. Like, obviously it was good Pauline Hanson got re-elected and Ralph Babette won in Victoria, but the biggest minor parties to win big were the Greens and the Teal Independents, which they just basically they just want more extreme policies of the same.
Yeah, because that's more extreme policies means more power, more way to, that's all it is. When I was in the Liberal Party, and look, I didn't know what it was. I just went in there because the Labor Party brought in the Safe Schools program that was sexualising kids at school. I went, well, what do I do then? Oh, I guess I better jump in the opposite party and see if we can change it. And I went in with a lot of Christians went in as well, and I found that it was all the same, and what happened in the last state election, and I think we need to remind people of this. So I helped a guy start the Aussie Battler Party. I ran 6 candidates for a preference deal out of my gym to help my mate Stu and Dave, who started the Aussie Battler Party. And but I did it on the lowdown because I was in the Liberal Party as a delegate. And so they had a preference deal, the Aussie Battlers, with the Liberal Party, and then the day that the preferences have to be locked in, which is prior to the election day, the Liberal Party rang up Stu and said, "Oh, we're pulling the pin on the preferences. That's it. We're not going to do a preference deal with you." And I found out that it wasn't just to him; it was to the shooters and fishers. It was to 2 independent candidates one of them that I know, and she told me that another one that she knew had the same thing happen to her on the day. So I would say that they did that on purpose. Well, obviously they did it on purpose. There's no reason to do that. Anyway, so that happened. So that and I asked the question in the Liberal Party at the state assembly. I think at some smaller electorate meetings that we had, and they would never answer the question why they did that. I'd ask why did this happen? Why did you renege on the preference deal? And they wouldn't answer it. Good question, Nick. But we'll get back to that later. That's what I got. No one would answer it. So that's how you know, okay, they're lying. They did it on purpose. It was done deliberately. And I think obviously they're still doing it. I'm sure they would have just preferenced each other, Labor and Liberal, to keep each other in power.
Well, if there's more minor parties winning in the future, they might actually do that. We've got the Victorian state election in November 26 this year. It's fixed terms, and I've said this previously, but it's worth saying again that since Matthew Guy expelled Bernie Finn for basically being pro-life, and Tim Smith is being forced into retirement, he's now basically Me Too to Dan Andrews on everything. I mean, so doesn't look like there's much choice difference with the 2 majors, but I know that United Australia have said they're going to be contesting the Victorian state election. I certainly hope One Nation does, and I know that Morgan Jonas is trying to register the Victorian Freedom Party. Yeah,
okay, that's good. That's good. I mean, there's a huge amount of corruption that happens when we know that they do it. I mean, we've seen what they did in the US. I mean, you can't tell me that Biden got more votes than anyone in the history of that country. Like, it's crazy. It's madness. Yet no one wants to see him speak. No, he's not selling out. He's at the audience. He's not filling out those stadiums when he talks. So no one can. It's all fake. It's all fake. And because you can't scrutineer properly, you're not allowed to. You're limited in how you can scrutineer, and it's a huge task to do it properly. And then all those mail-in votes and all the rest of it. How do you scrutineer that? How do you do that? You just got to trust them, and then you get situations where there's more votes in a particular electorate than there were even people in that electorate. Well, how did that happen? How did we get 30% more votes than there were people in that electorate? Well, that happens all the time.
Careful saying that now, because the AEC is very social media savvy, that if someone posts misinformation, the official AEC account will reply and say, basically, that's a load of crap, and this is what is actually the case.
Well, but it's true. I'm not going to not say it because it's true. I mean, you can't prove it because we're not allowed to prove it. You're not allowed to. How do you prove it when it's covered up, when you're not actually given access to all of that information to be able to scrutinize it clearly, every single name, and go through it with a fine-tooth comb? No, you can't. You're not allowed to do that. They don't let you do that. And then when you've got, like in this federal election, you've got people that were running as independents told, that if they tick that box, which is where their name was meant to be, but their name wasn't even there on the ballot, it should have been. The AEC just went, we won't put their names on there because they're running as independents. And then the workers that work for the AEC, when they're asked by multiple people, I've seen lots of videos of this, what happens if I tick this one? They go, oh, nothing. It will count it as a no vote, right? Well, that's how you vote for those independents, was by ticking that box. Isn't that crazy? Like that. But that's part of the cheating too. There's many ways to cheat and win, and this is, they say all's fair in love and war. Well, this is war, because that's what politics is. It represents, instead of going to battle and fighting with different factions and fighting each other, we do it. We get them at the ballot, right? But it's war, it's control, it's highly coveted power. So to think that they wouldn't cheat is absolutely ridiculous. It goes against everything we know about the psychology of corrupted sociopathic people. It goes against everything to that. We know there's lots of sociopaths in politics. It's one of the highest. It's one of the highest,
Or like there could just be still so many sheeple that they voted back in the people who oppressed them for the past 2 years. I mean, the major parties they didn't talk about COVID hardly at all during the campaign at all. I mean, the only incursion COVID made to the campaign was Albo got it and had to isolate for a week, and that's about it.
Yeah, look, I think people, I think we do need to get more of this treatment from the government. I think it's important for us too, so that more and more people wake up to it and go, you know what, I'm going to have to start thinking for myself and using my brain, because it's actually becoming detrimental to my health to let somebody else make decisions for me. And this is the thing. This is the sin of abdicating one's morality and abdicating one's decision making. Well, if you do that, then somebody else is going to step in there and make those decisions for you, and that's what they love to do. Okay, just because that's the one power we truly do have, that's ours from God, is our ability to make choices. And when you don't do it and you let someone else do it for you, that's more power to them.
Well, as you mentioned, I mean, we're seeing the hangover from the pandemic with energy prices now skyrocketing, as well as supermarket prices. I mean, your energy bill is going to go up from tomorrow. That's if your electricity stays on. And I have, what is it? The latest shortage at the supermarket is tissues. So there's hardly any of them now. I don't know what's up with that, but there's going to be expensive fruit and vegetable and supply gaps probably for the foreseeable future, and inflation.
Well, that's it. I mean, my mate runs a really good fruit shop in Melbourne, and he said he's never in his life seen prices like this ever. They were, I think it was snow peas were like $50 a kilo. It was crazy. It's absolutely ridiculous. But because of there's these the floods obviously affect some of it. Doesn't affect all of it though, and it's like any excuse to push the price up of everything. It's like there's war in Russia and Ukraine. Oh, that's what's affecting our fuel. I mean, come on, it's absolute garbage. If anything is truly doing that, and it would be the fact that they keep creating more money and it's not backed with anything substantial.
I might. We're nearly at the end, but I might just put this question to you, because there are some people in the freedom movement who believe that the floods in Lismore were a government concocted weather event, so they could rebuild the town somewhere else, because Premier Perrottet has spoken about building back better Lismore. I mean, what are your thoughts on?
It would not surprise. I mean, there's a Rainmaking Control Act, and if you just look on the government side, we've had that since 1967. Look up the Rainmaking Control Act, 1967. It's a government act. There's a minister for it. There's no liability in the act for the government in respect to authorised operations that cause excess snow, rain, sleet. That's all in there. It's just like with the vaccine stuff. There's no liability. It's very, very much the same. So look up Rainmaking Control Act, 1967, legislation.com or Austlii, either of the sites. It's there. I've actually shown this to people and they've said, I still don't believe it. And I go, it's right there. I'm showing you the truth. But that just confirms the Yuri Bezmenov quote where he says that, we don't remove the truth. We just corrupt the mind so they can't see it.
There's a lot of talk about bees and honey here. If you're in New South Wales, the bees are meant to be on lockdown because there's been this new parasite that's been imported. So yeah, all bees in New South Wales, they're under strict lockdown orders, and there's various quarantine zones, and if they're in that zone, then the hives have to be exterminated.
They're quarantining the bees now.
Yes.
Amazing, and sorry if you're going to starve to death. It's we're going to quarantine the bees for your own safety.
It's quite a sting. Let's hope that this came in via the Port of Newcastle, which that's owned, isn't it, majority by the CCP. Another a virus that's come in via a CCP connection.
Yeah, and you know what? They'll probably, make, criminalize people, beekeeping, or you have to have a COVID safe plan or some sort of safe plan if you have bees. And even if you have bees on your land, it'll probably be you have to have this. If you don't, well, we're going to have to take over your land and take it, like that's the sort of madness that it is. It's like, just piss off, leave us alone, stay out of our lives. But they won't do it because there's too many people that want it. They like their slavery, they enjoy it. But you know what? I don't like being a slave, and I'm going to put it to them. And if anyone wants to support me in it, go to www.fightcorruptpolice.com and let's fight them all the way. I've got a Telegram page, which is
and I'll put the link to there's the Australian Peacemakers Telegram channel, and there's also yours as well.
Yeah, there's the t.me/fightcorruptpolice. Telegram, and you can just put in fightcorruptpolice.com or www.fightcorruptpolice.com, and it takes you here. Anyone that wants to support me in this endeavor, look, help me. I'm not going to back down. I'm willing to go all the way with it. I just need some help with the resourcing of this this work I've got to do.
And your mate Sime Timothy, he's also facing charges from the Victoria Police. I'm unsure why he's decided to use GoFundMe, given what they did to the Canadian truckers. Like I fear that could be pulled down any moment, but there's still. If you want to talk about hangovers from the pandemic, I mean, Victoria Police are still pursuing charges against a lot of the freedom activists. I mean, Monica Schmidt's case is ongoing. There's Harrison McLean. He was also charged with incitement. I'm not sure the status of his case, but there's There's also people, they got so many fines that they got called before the magistrates court.
Yeah, there's a lot of us out there. Some of us, some of us are gonna. I'm only in this. Like I've literally decided this is my life to take these police out, to take them to task. That's it. We're going to go all the way with it, and they're going to throw everything at me. I've got another trial in for allegedly assaulting a police. It's another one where I didn't assault the police. That was in the 2020 protest. That was the same protest where Thanos was arrested for reading a Bible verse, and he was speaking.
Yeah, that was the first freedom rally back in May 2020. It was on Mother's Day, just at the tail end of the first lockdown, to flatten the curve.
Yeah, so I'm trying to gather some more witnesses. That I've got quite a few, but anyone that was there that saw, if anyone saw my arrest, please just reach out. You can reach out to me on the Australian Peacemaker side, or maybe get on to Tim, because they're going to try to they want to put people like me in jail because we're a threat, because we won't give up. I'm only one guy, but I've got a lot of people behind me supporting me, and I've got the will to keep going. That's a threat to them, and they don't want people like me around. So anyone that wants to help me, support me in that, I would be greatly appreciative, because together we can do it.
We've got a in-person fundraiser coming up soon.
Yeah, I'm doing one. We're going to be going through the public system and the private system, a bit of a discussion about what your rights are in the public, and as opposed to in the private. If you operate a business privately, and when police knock on your door, how you can remove their implied right, what trespass is. We're going to go through all of this stuff in this discussion. We'll probably go for about 2 to 3 hours. Don't have to stay there for the whole time if you're getting bored, but it is a fundraising event, and it'll be a bit of fun. So we've got one on the 7th. There's going to be one on the 17th as well at the Polish Club. I don't have the poster for you for that one, but we're doing a bit. We've got a fight event coming up in September as well. That's going to be fundraising as well, for the court cases. So yeah, but any support, I'd be greatly appreciated. I greatly appreciate it, and I promise that I will fight to the very end to get these police accountable. Because the only thing that they see, if you civilly sue the Victoria Police and they pay you out, that doesn't change anything. But if you prosecute and charge and get the police officers convicted, in that sends a shockwave through the whole of the state, the whole of the state's police force. They go, you know what, we've got to brief everyone on this, because this just happened. These police went to jail, and this could happen to anyone else. And so that's going to be, my role. That's what I want to do. That's my plan, and I know we can do it. I just need a bit of help to resource this battle.
And I'll include all those links on the live replay of this, and in the show notes page on the unshackled.net website. Good luck, Lady of Shalat, for fighting your fine tomorrow. I see that you're here, or I should say, I hear that your children are getting restless, so I'll let you go now. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. By the time your trial comes up, I'm not sure if it'll all be still virtual, or you'll be able to go in person, but they'll probably make you wear a mask or something if you choose to be in the public gallery, something like that. But there will be a way to view it.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be it'll be in person. Like, it'll be, it's a trial, it's a criminal trial. I'm confident they're doing those in person at the moment. I think they are for most things now. You can opt in for a virtual hearing, but with something like this, no, this will be in person. We'll be at the court.
Well, all the best, and yeah, it'll be, I think, a very, as I said, high stakes, and it will set, regardless of the what the result will be, it'll set a very big precedent.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks, Tim. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on today.
My pleasure. Take care, Nick. All right, everybody. That's the WIlmsFront featured interview show for this week. WIlmsFront will be back next Thursday. My guest will be Alan Moran of Regulation Economics. He'll help not just me, but all of us understand the complexities of Australia's energy market, why we are facing blackouts, and why our electricity prices are going up, and why more renewables isn't going to magically fix it. Alan Moran analyzes the energy industry for a living, so he's certainly the go-to person. He's regularly on Sky News trying to explain it to everyone, so I'm certainly looking forward to catching up with. He was one of the first guests on WIlmsFront, so I'm certainly looking forward to catching up with him next week. Trad Tasman talk tomorrow, 6 p.m. Melbourne time with Dewey de Boer. I saw at the beginning of this chat, a few of you were mentioning how, yes, News Hub in New Zealand were very triggered by his a pro-life remark that he made. So we'll be discussing him in the news, as well as the latest developments across the Tasman. So what is that? The Proud Boys have been designated as a terrorist organization in New Zealand, even though, not to my knowledge, they've ever had a Proud Boys chapter there. So that's quite peculiar there. I thought that the authorities in New Zealand would be more focused on the gangs shooting up South Auckland at the moment. And I'll also be talking about what's been happening here this week with Airbus Elbow in Madrid for NATO, the release of the Australian census, and also, yes, discussing Brendan Murphy's answer to the definition of a woman. So take care, everyone. Stay sane, stay safe, stay free, stay healthy, stay warm.
Thanks for tuning in to WIlmsFront. Visit timwilms.com to view the archive of episodes, and keep visiting theunshackle.net to view all our shows, and to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.